But no, this is one of the old school corduroy Scotch caps, which were in very high demand when we were at school. And I actually found this one in the music department behind the sound curtains in the memo hall after an orchestra rehearsal. I saw this little thing poking out from underneath the curtain. I thought like, oh, cool, I'll check that out. And I dusted it off, and it was one of these very cool old caps. And it's got a name in it as well. So if Digby Brandenburg of Year 9 Ross House is out there listening, I've got your hat. Yeah, I'm definitely not giving it back either. But
hi everyone, and welcome to our Tartan Tyres podcast. I'm Michael Silbert, this is Toby O'Keefe, and we have the great joy of visiting here with Rara Viper. Scotch boys, almost all Scotch boys. There is one interloper that we'll find out about in a second. Thanks for coming in, guys. Today's Arts Day at Scotch, which is a big new festival, and the boys took to it today, played music, played drums, expressed themselves in a lot of different ways, and this is a nice way to end the evening. We've given you a few beers and some burgers and chips, loosened ourselves up, had a chat. It's great to welcome you back to school. Maybe I'd just throw to you guys and go from left to right and give us your name and when you left school. Tell us quickly, starting from you, Jack.
Hey, I'm Jack. I left Scotch in 2011. It was my last year.
I'm Ollie. I'm a Christchurch boy, and I left Christchurch in 2015.
Ooh. There you know.
I'm also Ollie. I left Scotch in 2013.
I'm Harry, and I left Scotch in 2017.
And I'm Jules, and I left in 2014. Scotch, obviously.
So one of the first things that sort of jumps out is that, the Scotch boys and Christchurch boys tend to stick together in peer groups, and you guys are quite separated. Tell us a little bit about how you came together in different year groups and how you know each other and where the band came from.
It started originally, the band started, I only knew Jack through playing with the Mosman Park Football Club, which I actually did start playing at during year 12, just on the side, because they gave us a free pair of footy shorts, I think. But that's the only reason sort of we knew each other, and we were in sort of different years at school, but it wasn't until like after school sports and playing footy there. And then that was really the foundations of it all. We still are, me and Jack, pretty limited musically. I was still learning, definitely still, probably got the 4 chords down packed now. But we were just mucking around and we weren't really even taking it that seriously at all. And then fortunately we got Kruk, although from Christchurch, but he actually was a lot more musically talented than the both of us. It wasn't until Kruk came along that we were like, maybe we could go to an open mic night. Or maybe this actually doesn't sound atrocious, it sounds okay. But meanwhile, on the side of that, there was a developing band at that point in time called the Piscos, which we absolutely adored and loved and did most of our opening gigs for, our early gigs, which was actually Julian Sanders' band. But who were you playing with in that? They were all old Scotch boys as well, weren't they?
Yeah, that was another all Scotch boy band. We didn't have any Christchurch infiltrators in that one.
So no real talent then.
Well, that's exactly right, and no wonder this one's doing much better than that one. Common denominator.
And then we were still kind of working ourselves out, and then Harry came along, and suspiciously, as soon as Harry joined the piece, we suddenly started getting a lot more gigs and things like that.
Did you all of you or any of you sort of start a serious musical journey at Scotch, or was it something? Where's the grain? Is there any grain of this that we can claim for, or is it all?
Not with us. Yeah. Although I'd argue Sundi's got the worst ear for music, you were definitely on paper the most musically talented out of all of us.
Well, I did play the cello at Scotch for many years, which is not very rock and roll. But that is why I play the bass, was because we watched School of Rock, and then they say, cello, you got a bass. And they're completely different. They didn't translate particularly well, as these boys will tell you. But that kind of was the origin for me.
But you've played bass in one or two of the songs.
Whoa, yeah, all of them now.
Well, sorry, cello.
That's right. I have, yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll pull out the cello live.
And you were pulling it out the other day, weren't you? Not too
Yeah, we were also, in fact, sure enough, another Scotch boy, Matt Simic, who I think graduated in 2017 or something. Yeah, Humble Armada. So I was actually recording some cello for their new album over at their place, which was pretty funny, which was good. But I think Harry as well, as a drummer, started drumming.
Yes, I did. I've got all my drumming ability is thanks to Roy Hamilton, because I can't actually read music, and he'd always just record videos for me, and I'd go home and just play to the videos. So that's where I learnt how to do it all.
Did you do pipe band drumming and sit down drumming?
No, just pipe band drumming.
Yeah.
Right. And so how did that go? When did it go? Charlie go, not Charlie. Jack, did Jack go, I've got a brother who knows how to play the drums, or did Harry come in on his own?
I actually got kicked out of the band.
Oh, you got kicked out?
When I was in year 12, we started...
He wasn't 18 yet at this point.
Wasn't allowed into the venues.
He was, he started drumming with us like when we first started, and he was like 16. But we like thought it was a bit of an issue because he was only 16. So we kicked him out, and we got another guy, Ben Stacey, who's actually Harry and my cousin, because Harry and I are brothers. And he drummed with us for a year or year and a half, and then he kind of wanted to pursue his career. So Harry by that stage was 18 and keen as mustard, so we got him in. Turns out it was the best decision we ever made.
Led the child prodigy back into the band. Beautiful. Just as a Scotch question again, thinking about school days, and we sort of threw this out. Julian's got his cap on, and we said maybe bring along something that you can tell a story about or that means something to you from Scotch days.
Cool hat.
Over to you with the hat.
It's a cool hat. No, I was telling the boys they looked a bit weird when I walked into the burger shop before with my Scotch cap on. But no, this is one of the old school corduroy Scotch caps, which were in very high demand when we were at school. And I actually found this one in the music department behind the sound curtains in the memo hall after an orchestra rehearsal. I saw this little thing poking out from underneath the curtain. I thought like, oh, cool, I'll check that out. And I dusted it off, and it was one of these very cool old caps. And it's got a name in it as well. So if Digby Brandenburg of Year 9 Ross House is out there listening, I've got your hat. Yeah, I'm definitely not giving it back either. But, and I've just loved this way too much. Like, I was Year 9, and like people probably thought I was cool for the first time ever when I brought this out. So.
And the more faded they are, the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone else want to confess to stealing anything at this point?
Put a public call out.
No, not technically.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, I was looking at you.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. All right. We'll talk about some music stuff, hey? It's all music stuff. I'm keen to know where the name came from. It's such a good name. Is it a story you can tell me?
I can take this one as well. As one of the newer members of the band, I always thought it was a kind of cool name, but everyone always asks, and I've got mixed reviews. My sister says it's a great band, but dumb name. Fair enough. But so the story that I heard, and I think this is the official version that we're going with, is that that Jack, so on the corner there, lived in a share house that somehow or other got nicknamed the Viper Pit. Take out of that what you will. And I now live there, funnily enough. I took it over from Jack, strangely. But so he wanted kind of Viper in the name of the band, but Ollie thought that was Viper is a bit aggressive, like a bit too harsh. So chucked Rara on the front to make it a little bit more friendly,
palatable.
And that's the official version, as true as it might be.
Yeah, okay, cool. It's ended up on merch all over Perth now. It's like your cap. It's a very prized possession for a lot of people, I'm sure. I was just going to ask about. I just want to kind of talking back to that point about we've discussed you didn't necessarily find your musical passion in school, but can you remember the first time any of you performed for a decent crowd? Was it an open mic night? Was it for a family party?
Yeah,
How did-
we had our very first gig was at a party at the Viper Pit, as you'd expect. And
Rah-rah
probably-
Viper live from the Viper Pit.
Yeah, with the Piscos and that. So that was like, I don't know, you call that our first gig, but that was, you wouldn't want to see it right now.
Was there nerves there? Like, did you? I mean,
Yeah.
Jules had a performing background with the cello, but was there nerves there performing for the first time?
Oh yeah, and like it always added up to like just drinking like way too many beers beforehand, and like I distinctly remember not so much the party because it was a party and whatever, it didn't matter, but the first time we played at a venue was on a Monday night at Mojo's for open mic night. And we
famously very busy Monday night.
Yeah. Well, this night it was so busy because we brought every single one of our friends down, and the place was packed for a Monday night. And I just remember being insanely nervous, and just like, again, drank like 8 beers, which is probably like 6 too many. And yeah, I don't know.
Going, what have we done? We've invited all these people. Like, now we got to put on a show.
But see, I remember I was a late addition to the band. I was still playing in the Piscos, and so I was at both of these at the party and at that Monday night. And I remember me and Nick, who I played in the Piscos with, very keen musician. The first time we saw these guys, they were admittedly very blind, but we heard that we were just like, this is so cool. Like both of us were like instantly pretty big fans, and so I felt pretty lucky when they asked me to join. Little did they realize what they were getting themselves into, but no matter what they say, I think they were pretty good early on.
Yeah. Now we have a cello.
So then fast forward to a couple of months ago when you played opening at Optus Stadium for a Freo home game. Biggest crowd of your life?
Yeah, that was pretty special. It was like, it was obviously, it would be by numbers for sure. Although it obviously didn't feel like they actually, we had a lot of friends and family directly in front of the stage, which was really cool and really special. But yeah, that was a very, very cool experience. Like we're all die-hard Freo fans, except for Sanders, who is more of a Swan supporter, but did spend, I think, the entire band amount that we were getting paid that night buying a Freo away jumper to wear up on stage. But that was really special for all of us, and it was actually really cool because then we sort of put a post up of us all in our sort of kids in Freo jumpers and stuff like that, and the Freo Football Club were nice enough to sort of share that and get around that and repost that, and then when we rocked up, all their media team was sort of coming up and saying good day, and
nice, glad
to get around.
Yeah. And of course, probably a different vibe, but you had your sellout show at Freo Social, which we had a little chat about the bagpipe cameo from another Tesser brother, which popped up on a lot of social media stories. But in terms of your performance then, it was a big crowd, obviously, and it's warming you up. Was it, I guess, how did you find the energy at that gig compared to maybe your earlier gigs? Do you gain something from that energy, or does it?
It's a really weird, like, you definitely do, and in a weird, there was definitely a period, we're doing better now, and we still play quieter shows every now and then. It's not always like that. In a weird, now it's sort of flipped. It's like when you play those really big ass shows, you can almost really get into it with the audience and things like that, and sort of share the energy. Sometimes because particularly now we're starting to do, I guess, you go through different stages. So now we're almost having to like re-cut our teeth a little bit now that we've established ourselves a little bit, we're starting to be fortunate enough to get the opportunity to open for a lot of larger bands that are much bigger than us. And it's sort of posing a new challenge where we're getting to play in front of a lot of audience, but they don't necessarily know our songs. And
or like them.
Oh, yeah.
Find that out.
We actually played like to a very sold out room to a band called Sellout, and they're amazing band. Very, like, not different music style to us, but very unique fan base. And it's sort of like when it's playing to a crowd, when it's our show and they know our songs, it's really easy to sort of not feel nervous or you sort of get lost in it and enjoy it. But now it's the new challenge of trying to play to bigger crowds and they don't necessarily know your songs. But in saying that, it's probably more opportunity, right? Because all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of new people that haven't heard your songs, and
So what's that look like when you're in a fairly still in not that big of a room? You've got lots of energy, lots of heat. People having a dance, people are there for fun, and you're singing a song, and all of a sudden you see people actually singing your song that you sat down and wrote in a bedroom or whatever it is. How's that?
It's pretty cool. Like our biggest song still is the one we've paid God knows what amounts to, like record stuff professionally and things like that. But our biggest song still to this day is Paddy, which we recorded in Kruk's bedroom next to me for $0 and this and that still. And it was probably about a year ago, even less from today, where that sort of took off, and then people started actually knowing the words and things like that to that. And that was a really special moment. That was awesome, and it still really is when people sing along and stuff like that. Like I still can't. I'm not really quite at grips with it yet. That people can think that something we wrote is actually, somewhat, consumable. But.
Oh yeah, well I was going to say it is surreal, but something that happened a few weeks ago which grounded us well. We were playing a gig, and we played a song which is usually a pretty sing-along song. People tend to know it, and Ollie over here puts the mic out in the front row for someone to sing, and they just simply did not know the words at all, which was one of my favourite moments as a band we've ever had. It was golden, absolutely golden.
The terror on his face though was almost worth it.
Yeah, the poor guy.
And what do you think it is about that song, Paddy? Because obviously, like you said, it's done so well. Do you think it's your daddy lives in East Freo?
Yeah, there's a few
catchy
lines.
Local vibe?
Yeah, I think so. I think that helps. It's got a nice. I think we're now just finally come to sort of in the studio come to go. But we've always been better, and we probably still are in a lot of ways better alive, and we're better at actually playing the songs live in a weird way than putting it when we go into the studio. Like we struggle a little bit, and we're now finally starting to work that process out a little bit more. And I think honestly, Paddy was probably the first song that we sort of locked in live and like how to play it and feel really comfortable within the song.
We were talking before about a couple of you have travelled, a couple of you lived away for a little while, and then you're all back here and you're all having a great time and building the band and building a reputation. But thinking, you're about to go off for a weekend tour and go to a couple of fun places in the east, and maybe living there for a while or whatever. Does local translate? Does Kalamunda translate to Richmond? Or, or do you have to sell that all over again?
I don't think it's not completely, important. Like, we were just listening to one of our favourite bands recently called Fontaines DC. They're from Dublin, Ireland, so they've got so many quirky anecdotes that are like completely familiar to their Dublin surrounds and stuff in their first album. So we, like, globally, they're loved, and like people hear the songs and they get to know these places, and then they look them up and they're like, oh, it's a real place. I think it's similar in that sense, but I think it adds to it for the local community, and they can be like, oh, West Coast Highway, I know that one. Yeah.
And the authenticity of the storytelling within it is something that people respond to, I think.
Yeah, and I think we did as well. We played our first ever over East show a few weeks ago, and yet something that was really surreal is hearing over East people who'd probably never been to Perth singing those lyrics about Cottesloe and Freo and stuff. And that was pretty weird, wasn't it? Yeah.
And you actually, Sanders handed the mic down to the crowd member for that show and they actually knew the lyrics, which was crazy in the middle of the Gold Coast.
So you're just setting yourself up each time. It's like the Russian roulette with the microphone.
I was pretty confident with that person though. They were begging for it.
I'm keen to hear about your musical influences, because I know with Pile Rats you talked about Noah Dillon and you talked about Fontaines DC, and but for me, I listen to a bit of older stuff, and I can hear the Oils in there, and I can hear, especially with the vocals sometimes, it slips there, and then you can hear a bit of Peter Garrett and things. So I like maybe just go down, and if you've got a Fontaines DC maybe, but I guess probably a big one for myself would be Dandy Warhols. Big for me,
I don't know, maybe in the early days I was trying to drive it in like a Powderfinger direction,
Yep.
even though maybe the boys weren't keen. That's definitely what it sounded like.
I've always been big. I don't know. The more recent stuff. It sounds like cringe saying it. The more recent stuff is more. I don't know. Less. It's more commercially viable. But the old Kings of Leon, their first couple of albums, I've always been a huge fan. They're sort of late '90s sort of era. Kings of Leon.
Yeah. It's hard. Well, Cracky and I are probably the biggest Foals fans you'll ever meet.
Oh yeah.
So we always try and make something like really heavy, but then it always ends up getting stripped back a bit. But yeah, probably Foals. Same as Jack as well. Grew up on the Dandy Warhols. Brian Jonestown Massacre. Wouldn't say that's an influence, but I think it has some sort of
Still very
influence
cool.
In that category of... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. You're next.
Yeah,
In the hot seat.
yeah, mine's We wish we were as cool as Brian Jones. For me, I think that the Strokes are definitely a big one, and weirdly for bass parts that I try and steal is Angel Olsen, who is not remotely like our style at all, but there are some great bass lines in those songs. If anyone is interested in that.
So an eclectic mix, and that's kind of what's produced.
We actually do have a very different taste of music throughout the band, and you'll often see it chops and changes. So particularly when we're writing, when we write songs, it's more like the final sort of thing when you're trying to work out whether to play something like A or play something like B. It's quite interesting how we all sort of chop and change dynamics depending on
How does that process evolve for you guys? Is there a relatively standard sort of process for writing, or is it?
There is now. And we're slowly getting there.
shaking his head.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no process. Yeah. Comes from anywhere. Yeah. And it can come from anywhere in the band. So to say because I'm a guitar, I think Sometime, which is, our sort of best growing song that we have. That was, although Harry plays drums, that was you on a guitar writing that melody, which basically was the driver for that whole song. So it can come from anywhere.
And a lot of it does seem to be, in that sort of nice pop sense, quite melodically driven.
Yeah.
Not that there's great words, but there's some really those catchy melodies filter through, and they're the ones that stick in your brain. They're the earworms.
No, that's not me.
That's all. That is actually all him. It would be coy about it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like Dave Rubyhow, Triple J. I noticed he gave you a quick review on on Sometime, wasn't it? And Big Surrender, and he said, this typically West Australian sound, big guitar moments with stories to tell, and I thought that was pretty nice way to phrase it because that's what you hear, and the guitars are so important. You've got Jazz Master body kind of
Jazz Master is correct. Jazz Master for Cracky.
Yeah, I got Jazz.
And a Jaguar.
Do they mean anything to you, those instruments? Nothing?
Oh, Jack.
Just a
Cool
tool?
names.
Do you want to tell us about your Jack, man?
That guitar is my one true love.
Good.
Because they looked pretty.
They look cool, but we spent months and months looking for the right tone, and I finally found it in that aqua blue Jag. No, it just looks really cool. I love it. Plays great.
Yeah, it does look cool.
The only reason Cracky bought a Jazz Master is because the guy had a Foals uses a Jazz Master.
Right, there we go. There's that info.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's good. How do you rate the WA music scene? What do you think it does for you? I know Jack before was talking about a bubble. Do you feel like it's a bubble, or do you feel like it's a little nice ecosystem that harbours all this creative talent and feeds it off to the rest of the world?
Like that's a bubble bath.
No, it's really it's super. We kind of, although we were playing a little bit before COVID, we weren't really a band before COVID. We were really just cruising around and trying to work out what we were doing, or if we were going to do it properly or not. And we only started taking it a bit more seriously during COVID, and there really was like this bubble in Perth for COVID. Like no one was getting out or in, which I actually think for a band of our size that was still sort of learning it was probably one of the best things ever, because all of a sudden there wasn't any bands touring from over east into WA. So basically you could just all of a sudden play Friday, Saturday nights at all these venues that you just dreamed of playing, were just open to the local music scene rather than the big touring sort of acts. And to be honest, there was like, there's a lot of bands around, but there's not like, there wasn't enough to sort of make up for that loss of over east sort of bands coming in. So, and international, yeah. So we were sort of playing on the like the different bills, different venues, but repeating lineups. No one bigger, no one lesser, just rotating on who didn't really make a difference, with the same bands over and over again. And you'll see now that it's all bursting, everyone's finally getting the chance to go over east, and there's finally getting to see our favourite bands come in and play over here. There's still that real tight-knit feel, I feel, between all the bands. It was sort of, for 2 years, just playing on rotated lineups, basically. And it probably meant normally where you just sort of get to know them briefly, like at a gig, you actually builds a bit more community, right? Because you were seeing them every second weekend sort of thing. And then, and now Julian goes and records cello with Humble Armada boys, and we catch up with multiple bands, even just casually on the weekend and stuff like that. Just how they're going.
Also adding to that, I think because of the hype that all the WA bands have got throughout that COVID time, now that all the bands are coming back from over east and internationally, not only are they getting more support gigs for the local bands and everything, but I reckon a few of the local bands are even like pushing the over east bands,
right, to the
like
crowd,
putting on shows just as big as them. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're pretty parochial. We love it. Our local boy makes good story, and like getting behind, you know, a bunch of guys having fun. So, what would be wrong with that? You know.
I've got a question for Ollie. This Ollie about I've heard that you weren't a singer before this band, or the band before? Or?
No, yeah, I lived in Canada for like a long time, 2.5 years after school, and that's where I guess that was kind of. I just played in a band over there, but I was just playing like 4-chord guitars, and I actually can remember thinking, and it's weird to think we were a lot like a small town Canadian band. Like there wasn't much room for growth, and we were playing like just bars and stuff like that over there, like literally cowboy bars. But I used to think, even then, I was like, this is so sick. Like this is the best thing ever. Like, and then even the thought of coming back and getting to go front stage was like the craziest dream ever. And I think when we did that Monday night at Mojo's, I was already like, if this is the top of it, then I'm happy. Like, you know, this is I've ticked every box of every scratch I wanted to, you know, every itch I wanted to scratch. This is it. But even early days, so I wasn't a singer then. I've sort of just but even when first started Rara, me and Jack used to co-sing, didn't we? And it was like half the set I'd sing, half the set Jack would sing. Jack then selfishly left the band for a period to how dare you chase a career in anything like the band that doesn't and spend no money on guitars. But
the jazz masters.
Yeah. You wouldn't have the Jag without it. But the best thing about Jack coming back now is that all of a sudden with like backing vocals and even like thing, we can sort of get back to that sharing things like that. And that's really cool.
We put up just a social media post a couple of days ago saying we were going to talk to you guys, and we did get a couple of questions. Question without notice from the floor. This one's actually this one's actually from my house. So, but for each of you, when you're at school, schoolboy question: what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
A famous DJ.
Got pretty close as well. He's sold out by playing a real instrument.
Yeah, more money than DJ.
Yeah, honestly, had no idea at school. Still kind of unsure as well. So, like I'm not a good example as well.
Going into the second one. No, I was pretty similar, but thought I'd do architecture, so didn't do that.
Yeah, I don't know really. Like I did geology. I signed up for geology, and then but I think I was the same as what I think a lot of people would be like towards the end of school. You're not really quite sure about what you want to do, and I'm in construction now. I'm working like project management sort of stuff. But I personally took just some time off and went to Canada, and that was meant to be a single gap year, but it turned into a few years. But I'm very glad that I did it, because then I sort of worked out what I wanted to do at the end of it.
How's this already? You've answered. That was your final answer.
Although Harry did come back to school after he left school.
Yeah, very good point. He can't get enough. Mine was I just thought I would be a lawyer, which I kind of am now, on the side of being like a band member, obviously, which was always a dream that I never thought would actually happen, because I played the cello. But here we are.
Yeah, and so how does that work? Construction manager, lawyer, the rest of you, DJ.
It's like the village people.
How do you balance that? Because you're not. I'm assuming
really
you're all
good
working
question.
full time and you're managing that.
It is a really good question, because it is actually probably now. I think it's hard, but that's almost what's been the most liberating thing in this band. It's been that we've always had it's always been so separate. Like, we have our work and then we have our band, and then there's a lot of freedom within each of those. So because we work, we're not actually worried about like the fun. Any opportunity that we have to have a good time and play a good gig, we've just been able to take it without having to worry about it. Which is, a lot of bands we're playing with now don't have that. They sort of are really doing that full-time musician thing. Although, be it Jack's in construction as well. It is hard, because it is big hours and big days sort of thing. But I'll pass them up to Jack. I'll see what your thoughts are. But I personally, I don't think I would be able to do what I do at work and be able to focus in as much without having this space, which is the band, to really just, hang out with now really good friends that we songwrite with all the time, and relax and get that pure enjoyment factor, which I think translates into our live set as well, because we are purely there just to have fun, which then sort of just allows me to sort of, reset and focus in and keep it separate, which is nice. But I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I think I've always been someone who kind of I don't think you have to love your job completely that you're doing. So I just do my job for the paycheck, So
if you're out there listening,
no, I do quite enjoy my job, but at the same time, having the band, as Ollie said, is like the best thing ever outside of work. Because it's just like we practice on a Monday night, you finish work on a Monday, long day. You get to practice and you have a beer and we jam out for a couple hours and you feel amazing after, which is insane. So it's a funny one, because we're all super busy and we've got a manager now and a booking agent and stuff, and thank God we do, because we really don't have time between us to manage all that admin side of stuff. And it is actually getting to the point where even just having time to record and that type of thing and tour and that stuff is proven a bit difficult for us at the moment. So I don't know. It's just it's good to have the balance there, and I think it's one of our strengths for sure.
Do you want to add to that?
No, I completely agree.
That's all been said.
Do you want another phone-in question? I don't know if anyone knows Adam McLaren.
I live with that idiot, unfortunately.
This could be a setup then.
I'm certain that it is, but let's hear it.
Hey, just a question for the band tomorrow. I know Julian was in another band, the Piscos, with some other schoolmates before joining this band. I just want to know what made this band so much more successful. And whether it impacted his relationships with the boys in the first band.
Wow.
Thanks, smiley face.
Ironically, Adam was the original lead singer of the Piscos. You guys might not actually know this.
Kicked out of that position.
Yeah, well, no. So that was the thing. So we'd jam out in my mum's garage, and then we were like, okay, we'd better have a gig. And Adam goes, oh, wait, play in front of people. I'm not singing in front of anyone. that would be lame. I'd have to drink 20 beers. And so Nick, who we also live with, took over. And yeah, of course, being in this band has destroyed my relationship with Nick from the Piscos. It's never been the same. No, not at all. He's very supportive, and we still like do a lot of stuff together. We get very excited when the other one purchases music equipment in the house and all of those things. So it's fun, and particularly we're doing a Piscos reunion show at some point, which Rara are going to support the Piscos for, which is pretty hilarious to think when you
bring
picture
the band back together.
Yeah, exactly.
It just means you do a double shift.
Yeah, which should be. Yeah, I know one shift is bad enough. So we'll see how that goes. But
I've got a setup question. So this has got the Triple J Hottest 100s for the various years that you boys left school.
Oh,
And
great
Let me
question.
chuck it over. Oop. And as you go down, that's the top 5. Just tell us, pick your year, tell us what your year is, and tell us what your favourite song out of those 5 is, or whether you hate it or love it.
Oh, wow. I'm not good vintage.
Hang on, we need a mic there.
yeah, Jack, go.
Yeah, so I'm in 2011. The number 1 song was Somebody That I Used to Know, Got You. Not a bad song. Number 2, however, one of the greatest songs ever, Lonely Boy by the Black Keys.
Easy.
Yeah, you won.
That's another big influence, actually. We ripped them off a lot.
Yeah.
20.
Like all good bands,
I
eh?
think Jack's just answered for all of us.
Yeah,
That's
probably.
can't beat that.
Yeah. In 2015, we had the Rubens with Hoops. I do love that song.
Yeah.
But probably Let It Happen by Tame Impala's probably one of the all-time best.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably wins it.
Can't believe Hoops beat that in the thing.
I know.
Did that win
You've
the
got a
one for the
bloody,
decade?
you got an
Yeah.
easy one as well.
I don't think you got the Taylor Swift year in that, that pile. They can be stacked, those.
No,
Otherwise, that would be the number 1, I think. Yeah.
Do you know what's so embarrassing? I think, Julian, you're just going to... And probably everyone. In my 2013 year I left, you got Riptide, which was a great tune.
Loved that, actually.
And then I see now, I've only come to, I think, appreciate the song now, is the Arctic Monkeys, Do I Want to Know?
Yeah.
The most embarrassing thing is I can't remember that song being around when I left school. Shows how
What were you listening to?
yeah. Lord Royals was in that year, so I was probably caught up in that song for a fair while, I imagine.
That's a
Yeah.
great top. That's a good
Yeah.
lineup, though.
Oh, sorry.
You need to pay
Number 1 for my year was Humble by Kendrick Lamar.
We entered the
Oh,
rap era.
yeah.
Here we go.
But my favourite out of that year would probably be Methyl Ethyl Ubu.
That was a tune. I won a lot of money on that song, actually. Just want to say.
I was 2014, and I think I've got the hardest year yet. There's 2 Peking Duck songs, so Harry would like the DJs.
Harry's a huge
Hilltop
Peking Duck
Hoods, I
fan.
do love them. Cosby Sweater. Number 1 though was Chet Faker, Talk Is Cheap, and Adam McLaren and I. So the person who asked that question in the fan group, we love that song. So I'd go with the number 1.
Yeah, so they get it pretty right most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a question for Harry. I think it's pretty obvious to people when they see the band that Harry's role is fairly important. Being the drummer, he
Critical.
keeps the time, but he, does a lot more than that, obviously. But you didn't play, like Michael said, you didn't play sit-down drums before you left school. Well, I seem to recall you at some point playing sit-down drums.
I never played sit-down drums I never had a lesson or anything. I just sort of taught myself that side of it.
How do you think that playing drums in a kilt, doing a lot of rolls, doing a lot of, things like that, how does that impacted your playing?
Massively, I think. A lot of people, I think, when they first sit down on a drum kit, your first thing you want to do is just smash it as loud as you can. But as Roy would always tell me, you've got to learn your rudiments, and you've got to practice everything you do on your left hand. You have to be able to do on your right hand, and you just learn all the little idiosyncrasies that go in between each song, and it all just transfers onto a drum kit. It's just instead of hitting one drum, you're hitting a few more.
So you
And
didn't
use your
go,
feet.
oh my God, look at all these drums and want to rage out. It was
Yeah, of course.
that was the first
I
step.
think it's pretty hard not to do that. But yeah, I think it's all the same thing. People who learn drum kit will learn the same rudiments you learn playing in the pipe band. It's just about placing them differently.
Right.
And yeah.
But there's a place for that, those disciplines that you then can let go of because you know you've got the structure underneath, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you could say I've probably let go of a few of them
Yeah.
by now as well. If you ever come to a show, I'm sure you'll see that as well.
Not knowingly let go as opposed to just let fly out the window by
Artistic
themselves.
decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Once you know everything, you can choose which rules you
Well,
follow. Right?
Everything's a bit of an overstatement, I think.
I feel like we've left the poor CCGS boy out. I have a question for
Yeah,
him.
let's roast him.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Lead guitar.
Were
Lead
you good
guitar.
at swimming?
Yeah, I was alright. Yeah.
So the band spoke about your musical prowess.
Prowess.
Before you
He
came
loves
to
us
the band.
talking about that.
What did you do before you joined the band?
I learnt classical guitar from year 2, starting at JDC, and then only really went to electric at the end of high school.
Right.
Yeah, but did lessons pretty much. It's good release and have a period off and go play
Yeah.
some tunes with the teacher. Yeah,
That's super interesting that both you and Harry have come from these highly disciplined
Yeah.
kind of instrumental skills and taken
Rejected
them.
it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's a classic story, isn't it? The private school. No. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Cello boy gone wild.
That's your solo album. James Porter.
Bring it on, yeah.
James asks, Julian was head of student council. Brackets.
Believe it or not.
Brackets, HOSC, brackets. So we've got a defined term.
Yeah,
One of the 4 key leadership positions in Year 12. I'd love to know what that meant to him and how that's helped shape him to the man he is today.
as you might be able to tell.
Specifically the head of council role.
Yeah, exactly. You can probably tell the theme that the commenters are my friends making fun of me, hearing that I'm going to be on this. I was quite surprised that I got that role. I probably, arguably, didn't deserve it, but I don't know. I can't say I reflect particularly much on the leadership role or anything, but I did love school, and I think we all did for the most part. So we all look fondly on that. And what is funny is that we are all different years, but we're all, in fact, quite different people, but we do seem to have something in common. I think it's just like kind of the environment in which we've all kind of come up through and similar experiences, which I think is important for keeping us all like very good mates through quite a long period of time now, lots of travel. We don't really get annoyed at each other. We do argue, but in like a constructive way. Yeah. Well, I don't get annoyed, but
You are the annoyance, is that?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you want me to do a fun one or no?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, a fun one. No. Can everyone point to this person when I tell you who they are? Let me get my list up. Hang on. See someone. The poor misunderstood artist. So who's that? Who wins? It's pretty. I mean, Harry's.
I think that's Harry
Harry
and
gets 2 votes.
Harry and Ollie both have 2.
Well, okay. All right. The wannabe frontman. Ollie's out of the race here. That Ollie.
There's only other one.
yeah.
Jack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sunny if he
That-
There's a reason we turned your mic.
Lots of reasons.
The Keith Moon of the band who might take a chainsaw to the hotel room walls and smash up some stuff.
Right, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this guy.
All right. Saunders. Again, probably. All right. Okay, that clears that up.
I reckon we're pretty much done. We've been fantastic having a chat with you. We're recording this on the 30th of June. You guys have got tours to the east on the 29th of July at the Chippo in Sydney. for everybody watching this, the thousands and thousands of viewers we've got.
Yeah.
Get along there. 30th of July, the Leadbetter in Richmond. That'll be fun. It's a good old pub. And then back here on the 5th of August, Indian Ocean Hotel Scarborough.
Great spot.
Yep.
Any new songs coming for any of those? What are we talking about?
Yeah, we do. We've got a new track actually coming out in 2 weeks now. It's called Mix Song. It's out on the 13th of July. So yeah, it's we're pretty happy with this one. It's like a new, probably the song we've recorded so far that captures our live sound best out of all the ones we've done. So yeah, we're excited for it to come out.
Brilliant. We'll look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Sure.
Fantastic having you.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Lots of fun.
Well done.
Cheers.